Chicken Barr should have shown up today and answered questions. Drumsticks?
Hey, look at that. What do you know? Show and tell. At our House of Representatives in Washington, D.C. today, the Democrats deciding to bring a chicken. Well, not a real one, which might have actually been more interesting, but a ceramic chicken and some KFC to eat. It was all designed to take a jab at the Attorney General for declining to come to their hearing today. You know, this is what major matters of state are being reduced to? Stunts like that? Political theater? Come on, guys. I mean, this is our Congress, ladies and gentlemen. These are the people that we are relying on to govern and to secure our country. Now, you've heard me wonder out loud whether the partisanship in Washington has made us as a nation ungovernable. And indeed, the Democrats are certainly doing their very best to make sure that we are ungovernable. The president, in an exclusive interview, tells me there's a reason why the Attorney General wasn't so keen on attending today's hearing. Listen. Fox has learned that Attorney Barr is not actually going to go to the House Judiciary Committee tomorrow. How come?
Well, I guess they want to treat him differently than they have anybody else. And for many, many years, they've never done it this way, where they're bringing in outside counsel or something. And that's not the way, you know, you elect people, they're supposed to be able to do their own talking. But he did a fantastic job today, I'm told. I got to see some of it. He did a fantastic job.
Yeah, you know, they should be able to do their own talking. A lot of them have been trained as lawyers. So I would say that's fair to expect them to do their own questioning. But I'll tell you this. If I were Attorney General Barr, I'd have another reason to skip Congress. Politics. You have only to see how rabid the Democrats in the Senate are right now, all in an effort to smear Attorney General Barr and to prove their new theory on obstruction, of course, for a crime that didn't happen. Listen.
There was never obstruction. There was never collusion. You look at it, it's all just, it's a political game.
Sadly, yes, it is a political game. And that's concerning. We should all be on the same page, on the same team when it comes to truth and justice.
How about these three people? Three of them are running for, they're not doing very well, but three of them are running for a particular office. I think you're talking to the person right now. They're running, so you have three of them running against me, and they're up there ranting and raving like lunatics, frankly, and they're running, and how is that fair? So you have Bill Barr, highly respected, great Attorney General, and he's got to take the abuse from people that are running for office.
Right, because it's all politics. Exactly. So knowing that it's that political, that should concern us. We're talking about some serious stuff here. I mean, the Democrats wanted the world to think that President Trump was an agent of Russia. And when they found out, for sure, he actually wasn't, then what did they do? They decided to strategize to take down members of his team and to try and take down him, the president himself. Right now, they're trying to come up with this whole obstruction of justice thing because the president dared to ask his legal team for some advice, which last time I checked, you have things like attorney-client privilege, right? The president ought to be able to ask, how do I get myself out of a jam? I get some Democrats trying to effectively frame me politically. How do I get out of that? Seems like a worthwhile question to ask members of your team. Anyway, here with me to react to all of it right now, Wisconsin Republican Congressman Sean Duffy. And Congressman, it's good to have you back. I mean, I'm really struck by this, and more so, of course, because I read the whole report, all of it. And after getting through Volume 1, I wondered, why the heck do we have Volume 2 here? And
Exactly.
It's very peculiar to me and a little bit Banana Republic-like that we're trying to go after a president for something that doesn't exist.
A crime we didn't commit. I mean, first of all, Trish, I got to tell you, I'm embarrassed tonight and ashamed of the Congress that members of Congress would behave the way that you showed, bringing in chicken to a hearing. What a bunch of clowns. And the fact that they don't have the smarts and intelligence to ask questions of Bill Barr. They need their own lawyers to do it for them, breaking 200 plus years of precedence in the House that they're going to bring their lawyers and ask questions. Don't be dumb. Know your questions, ask him.
I know you're a congressman. And you're one of the good ones, but unfortunately, there are a lot of people that get elected to that office that don't know what the heck they're doing or what the heck they're talking about. Ilhan Omar comes to mind, and we're going to talk about her later in the show. But it's irresponsible. And what they did today, Congressman, that was nothing but political theater, a giant stunt.
Listen, absolutely. And they look stupid doing it, and they undermine the institution in which we serve. And by the way, Bill Barr was going to come in. He'll take their questions. He's not going to take questions from lawyers. He asked Jerry Nadler to come in and review the unredacted report. He could look at it all. Jerry Nadler decided not to go look at it. This is just games. And you mentioned in your intro, they're not looking for truth. They're looking for a political stunt. If you're looking for truth, you would say, did Russia interfere with our elections? Yes. Did Donald Trump collude with them? No. Let's move on to governing and making people's lives better. But what this is really about, Trish, and you alluded to this as well, you're right on, this is about smearing Bill Barr. Because after this is over, he is going for Hillary Clinton, the dossier, all the corrupt intelligence officials who brought us this investigation over 2 years, distracted our attention, and I think misused their power. There are going to be people held to account. Bill Barr is the guy who's going to do it, and they want to destroy him before he gets to that evidence.
Think about that. We spent 2+ years listening to Democrat after Democrat, and by the way, television host after television host.
That's right.
And columnist after columnist in print media tell us that somehow something really bad went down. And I'll tell you this, Congressman, I think something really, really bad did go down, but I don't think it had anything to do with Donald Trump. In fact, I know that after reading the entire report. You see, that it was like Keystone Cops, right? The Russians were trying. They were trying very hard to get to him or somebody close to him, and they kept striking out. They never made it to first base. I would imagine they knew people in the Hillary Clinton side of things because she'd been around a while.
Right, but you and I both know that that Bob Mueller could have made a referral for criminal charges to Bill Barr. He could have made a referral for Bill Barr to charge or for the Congress to impeach. It's happened in the past, but it didn't happen here because there was no collusion, there was no obstruction. That didn't happen, and the Democrats trying to find a new storyline because, listen, they don't have any ideas, Trish. We've talked about tax reform, reducing and streamlining rules and regulation, making people's lives better. Wages are increasing. There's more opportunity, more jobs, more upward mobility. Things are great in America. And if you can't run on that, you got to stick to this tired idea that there was Russia collusion, and they can't let it go. And by the way, the American people are tiring of this, and I think this is going to cost them the presidency. And frankly, with the antics today in the House with their little chicken eating fest, I think they're going to lose the House as well.
Well, and I think the president had a wonderful point when he brought up, you had 3 people questioning Attorney General Barr yesterday there on the Senate committee that are all running for everybody's running for president these days. If you're a Democrat that's not running for president, there must be something wrong with you, right? Because they're all running for president. But the idea that now they get to use this as some kind of platform to play their politics, that's wrong. And that's what alarms me. And I don't care what side of the aisle you're on this. Really, Congressman, this is not a political moment. We should be thankful that there was no Russian collusion, but we should be very disheartened by the way this all went down, and we deserve answers.
But we give power to our intelligence agencies, incredible power to use it for good. When they use it for political purposes, we as the public have a right to know, or Trish, we take that power away from them. And it's important that they have that power to keep us safe. But when they go after a presidential candidate that they don't like, that they think they can smell their supporters in Walmart, we have to review that power, review who abused it, and hold them to account to make sure it doesn't happen again and to clean out those bad actors, put new rules and guidelines in place to make sure this never, ever happens again.
He knows that spying happened, and he's going to get to the bottom of it. Congressman.
Absolutely.
Congressman Duffy, thank you.